Have you ever wondered if you could use infusible inks on wood? Well, yes you can, and I'm here today to show you exactly how to do that. Hey, I'm Sarah. Welcome. If you're new here, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and that notification bell so you don't miss any upcoming tutorials, and make sure you stick around to the end so you don't miss any of the important steps that we're going to walk through today on how to get this project done. So first we are going to head over to the Dollar Tree, and I picked up this blank piece of wood. When you do this with the infusible inks, you want to make sure that you have a light colored wood because that just works best. And then I have here my heat press and some laminate sheets and some infusible ink sheets. Now the laminate stuff I get from Tech Wrap, and the infusible inks I get off of Amazon. I'm going to set this to 375, and I'm going to leave it at the 60-second mark that it is already on. And this is the temperature and time we will be using for today. Then setting this off to the side, I'm going to let this heat up. And with this Tech Wrap laminate sheets, I really love this stuff. I use this on top of stickers, and I have a cold laminate machine that you just stick it right through, so I don't even necessarily use the heat setting on my laminator. But today we are going to pick one of these, and I love these packs because they come with so many different like designs on the laminated paper sheets here, that this is what really makes stickers cool, because you can give it that holographic fun design on top of your stickers. So there's some here with hearts and butterflies, there's stars. I know it's kind of hard to see on here, but it comes with all different types. And today we're just going to use the plain holographic just to give it that extra shine. And when you're using the laminate sheets, we are going to laminate over the top of this wood. But you want to make sure that the laminate is bigger than your piece of wood, because it kind of shrinks up as you heat it. So here I'm just going to cut a piece of this laminate because you don't really have to cut it to the right shape or size. It's going to just do that all on its own, and we'll trim it up later. Now that I have my piece of laminate paper cut to about the size I want, it's a little bit larger than my wood piece, I am going to peel the backing off of this laminate sheet. And then we will place the wood piece on top of it. So you're going to want the sticky side of this laminate sheet facing up. After I find the corner here, this stuff is super thin and it can be really sticky. So do your best to get this just to lay flat, and then take that wood piece and lay it down flat and flip it over. Now you're just going to want to press out all the bubbles and wrinkles that might be on here from putting it down on there. And once you have it nice and flat, I kind of just make sure I rub around all the corners and stuff just to make sure it's on there really good. Then I'm going to take this up, and we are going to get ready. Since the heat press is all heated up and ready to go, I'm going to grab my pressing mat and then a piece of butcher paper to cover my mat with so that I don't get any ink on it. You could also use some cardstock, just something to cover up that mat, because this laminate sheet that is hanging over the wood actually will stick down to that paper, and you don't want that mess all over your heat mat because that's just no good. So now I'm going to cover this again one more time just with a Teflon sheet, and we're going to heat up this laminate piece onto the wood. Now with these Cricut Easy Press 2s, to be honest, I'm not super impressed. It's the only heat press I currently have, so I make do with what I have here. But I don't feel like the middle gets as hot as the rest of it. So I kind of just work my way around, trying to press this all down, and then as you'll see later, I kind of move it around more in a circular motion, and then I'm just trying to heat this up evenly. You do what you have to do. It took me a few tries to get this to lay flat, and then the laminate, it wrinkled a little bit in the corner, but I was able to kind of push that out with the heat press itself. Now, if I had like a clamshell or an actual heat press, this would probably work a lot easier. But again, use what you have. You could even use a household iron for this if you don't have any type of heat press. But here, after my first hit with the heat, as you can see, it has bubbled a little bit on the edges. It's not completely flat. So I'm just going to cover this up again, and we are going to keep working around here until it's as smooth as I can get it. Have you guys used infusible inks before? If you have, leave down in the comments, what have you tried it on? What are your favorite products or blanks that you like to use it on? I love using this stuff, but I'll have to tell you, I'm not a big fan of the Cricut infusible inks because they come rolled up. And I just find sometimes it's a little more difficult to work with. It's harder to tape it down when you need to tape it down. But I'll show you in a little bit why I love this other brand that I get off of Amazon so well, because it's flat sheets and it just lays so much better. But anyways, what types of things do you like to make with infusible inks? Have you tried it on wood before and maybe didn't get the results you were looking for? Drop down in the comments if there's anything you want me to try it on, to test it out on, and do a tutorial on that for you, because that is why I'm here. And I would love to help you out with that. Now, after swirling this around a little bit more, I got this little corner down here as flat as I could. It wrinkled up a little bit when I first pressed it, so this was pretty good. I feel like I'm happy with the way this turned out, and now we are ready to move on to the next step. So as you can see, like I had mentioned before, that laminate that hangs over is just stuck down to the paper. So instead of peeling it up and risking that you're going to rip the laminate right off the wood, I would recommend using my self-healing mat down here. I'm just going to place it on here and grab my X-Acto knife. Now, I love these self-healing mats because you can just cut away on it and you're not going to damage your table or go through the mat. They're just super nice to have. But here, as you can see, I'm just taking my X-Acto knife and running the blade around the wood, cutting off the extra laminate sheet. And we're just going to work our way around here and then move on to the next part of this project. Hey, if you guys are new here, welcome. Like I said before, I think, my name is Sarah. I love doing all the crafts, and especially ones that I can use my Cricut with. If you have been here before, welcome back. I really do appreciate you guys tuning in and joining me in all the different things that I like to do and help you guys out with in learning new techniques and tips and tricks. I really do appreciate you guys and the time that you spend here. Like I said before, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any of my upcoming tutorials, and go ahead and hit that like button. That's not for me, that's for YouTube. They love to see that kind of stuff, so they know that you all are enjoying videos like this, so they will show you more. Now that I have all of that laminate cut off, I am going to clean up the edges a little bit by grabbing some sandpaper and just lightly sanding the edges of this board off. So just taking a piece of sandpaper, I'm going to lightly just rough this up on the edges to get some of where maybe my X-Acto knife didn't quite get that laminate sheet extra pieces off the edges here. You want to make sure that you don't accidentally like rub it loose from the wood. You don't want to get underneath it necessarily, but just kind of lightly sand around those edges to make it smooth and get off that extra. I just kind of brushed off all that little sawdust from sanding off those edges, clean it off good, and then I'm going to grab my pressing mat again and then cover it with another piece of butcher paper, and then I'm going to grab a piece of this infusible ink that I will be putting on top of the laminate sheet. So this is the brand that I like to get off of Amazon. And I'll have all this stuff linked down in the description so you could find what I'm using today. But as you can see, this stuff, it's just a lot easier to work with. And honestly, it's a lot cheaper because with the infusible ink from Cricut, you get like 2 sheets for maybe $10 to $14, depending on patterns and such. This came with 10 12 by 12 sheets, and I think it was probably $14. So much better of a deal. And I really liked the patterns in this one. I got kind of like the galaxy tie-dye kind of patterns on this one. And here I'm just going to mark where I need to cut this. This part does not need to be bigger than the blank, the piece of wood. It does not shrink up or anything, but I didn't want to have to deal with cutting it out exactly. So I am just going to take this and tape it down to the paper. As you can see here, I did try to tape it to the wood itself, but that wasn't really necessary and it didn't really work very well. So I just flipped it over and I taped the ink sheets down to the butcher paper just to kind of hold it in place. I wasn't really worried about this sliding around too much or anything. Yeah, don't do this. This did not work very well. If I had cut it down to size, then I would have used the tape to tape it down to the wood itself, but I didn't want to have to mess around with that. So I changed my mind and just flipped it over and taped it to the paper. You just want to make sure your entire piece of wood is covered, and that is all you really need to do here. This tape I'm using, in case you're not familiar with the tape that you use with Infusible Ink or sublimation, it's a heat safe tape. So it's not going to get in the way of heating up this infusible inks, and it's not going to burn up. So make sure you're using a heat safe tape. Like I said before, I'll have this stuff all linked down in the description below. I'm covering up this with my Teflon sheet one more time. I want to protect my heat press and my mat from the infusible inks. And I also have this set at the same temperature and the same time as before, 375 for 60 seconds. When you're using infusible inks, you do not want to rub this around like I did with the laminate sheet. That will cause ghosting and it would just not turn out the way you want it to. So you really have to just press it hard and hold it still. And when you pull it up, when you're done, make sure you pull it straight up so that you're not dragging it across your project, because that can still mess with the inks as it's settling. Now, to avoid that ghosting effect, like I had mentioned, pull this straight up and then carefully pull off your Teflon sheet and give it a few seconds so that it can cool down slightly and it won't give off any of that ghosting, which is like shadowing. It just kind of moves that inks on that paper around before it's ready to be pulled up, and it can just mess up with your design. Now, because this one was just a solid piece, there wasn't any cutting or any intricate details, it would be fine. But with anything else, you want to be careful about that. And you guys, I could not believe how well this turned out. I mean, look at that. Look at the colors. Look how much of that came off of this transfer sheet. I love this pattern. This will be given to my niece, Abby, who is obsessed with NASA and all things space. So there you go. That was pretty simple. All you need is a piece of wood from the Dollar Tree, infusible inks or sublimation if you have it, and some laminated sheets. And you can do just about anything with this stuff. Now I am going to do one more thing to this to dress it up for my niece, and we are going to go ahead and put her name on here. But like I said before, these laminate sheets from Tech Wrap, this would have looked really cool with like the starry one, because that pattern would kind of show through underneath that ink. But this stuff worked really, really well. And now let's move on to the next step of personalizing this for my niece. So here I have our finished wood piece, and I found an SVG file on Creative Fabrica that had a NASA-like lettering. Now it says it's a font, but it's not technically a font because I had to download each SVG file separately. And I'll have this link down below as well. And then because this is on something that is on laminate, I decided to use this paper transfer. It is just made, it's a really low tack, so it's great for anything that's painted or stained. It'll prevent the peeling of paint and stuff. So I didn't want to risk pulling up any of this laminate sheet on the wood. So I grabbed this, and we are going to see if this helps to transfer this vinyl a little bit easier onto this piece of wood. I'm going to take my scraper tool and just burnish this down and rub it down really good to that transfer paper on the top, the front, and the back. And then I will be removing the back piece of this. And when I put this on here, I just kind of eyeball where the center is, and I really just very lightly press this down. I do not burnish it down onto here until after I remove the transfer paper, just because I didn't want to risk pulling anything up. So go ahead and just lightly rub it, and then check if it comes up, you're good to go. And then I just use my finger and rub this down really good after I have all this paper off. And that's it. I think she is going to be thrilled with this fun little nameplate. I might put some string on it so that she can hang it up somewhere in her room. And there you have it. That was a super simple project that you can do with just a few things. And if you guys are looking for other projects to do with infusible inks, go ahead and watch this next video that's coming up now.